All right, here we go. Next up, we got, as we said, we're talking about health. Now we're going to go to our environment. Sierra Club. Grassroots again, another grassroots organization that has blown up into something bigger than I guess it was first meant to. It was founded by the conservative John Moore in 1892. Sierra Club is now the nation's largest and most influential grassroots environmental organization, hosting more than 2 million members and supporters. The club's successes range from protecting millions of acres of clean air, clean water, endangered species. More recently, the club made history by leading the change to move away from the dirty fossil fuels that cause climate disruption and toward a clean energy economy. Their missions are to explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of the earth, practice and promote the responsible uses of the earth's ecosystem, educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of the natural and human environment. Use only lawful means to carry out these objectives. The Suwanee-St. John's Group was founded in 1971 and has more than 2,000 members in 15 North Central Florida counties. All of its volunteers and organizations, it focuses on local communities along with working on state and national levels as part of the Florida chapter of the National Sierra Club. So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the chairman of the Suwanee-St. John's Sierra Club, Mr. Whitey Markle.
Thank you, Dave Koller. And thank you, Rachel and Barbara, for inviting me here. We are the biggest Sierra Club group east of the Mississippi River. We take up geography the size of the state of Massachusetts. And we have North Florida, with the exception of Jacksonville, and we have all of the remaining natural resources left in the state, especially the water. We have the springs. So, like Dave said, we're here to protect, enjoy, and explore the natural resources. And we concentrate on land issues, water issues, and energy issues. They're all related. One leads to the other. But I want to talk to you today about some pending legislation that's up before the illustrious state legislature as we speak. In fact, one bill is being debated in the first committee today, and that is Senate Bill 10, which has been introduced by Senator Bradley, which is called Water Resources. He's asking for an additional $35 million for water projects in this basin, because that's who he represents. He represents most of Levy, Gilchrist, and parts of North Marion. He represents me. So it's a good bill. It's being debated today, and we don't know the outcome. Senate Bill 90 has been introduced by Senator Brandeis, which, as you know, we defeated Amendment 1 in the last election. That was the one where the power companies were going to keep us from generating our own renewable power. And they were going to actually charge you more on your electric bill if you invested in a cost-saving renewable energy system for your own home. So we got that defeated. I think the people saw that pretty well. And it wasn't just the Sierra Club, it was all the grassroots organizations. But this bill, Senate Bill 90, will provide exemption for renewable energy investments off of your property taxes and off of your tangible property tax. So there will be no additional value put on that, and that's a good deal. We found out that there's about a 5% per year return on your investment over the long run, because here's the thing about it. Once you install, say, a solar system, you don't pay any more for that. The investment is done. Those solar collectors are guaranteed by the company that sells them for 30 years. So there's really nothing that can happen to them. They're pretty well unbreakable. So that's going on in the state Senate. Another great one that's going on right now is Senate Bill 98. It's called the Stop Fracking Bill. We know why they're fracking. We did put a heck of a dent in coal. 2 reasons. Coal's running out. It's a finite resource. And so they came up with this method of extracting natural gas, which is about 10 times more quicker than mining it like they used to do, or drilling for it like they used to do. Now they go down about a mile, they go out about a mile, and they blow it up. And it releases those gases, and they capture the gases, bring it back up, and sell it to me and you. And they also sell it overseas. You know about the pipeline that's going through. I hope you all know about the pipeline. A lot of protests over that. That pipeline is piping natural gas from North Dakota down through the southern states, and it will go out, most of it, about 90% will go out of the ports of Florida to be sold overseas. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not eminent domain. It's against the law. We have a lawsuit against that going on right now. Senator Bradley, who represents part of Marion County, has asked for additional funding for the restoration of the lower St. Johns River and also the Keystone Heights lakes. We're wondering about how they would restore the Keystone Heights lakes. I have a piece of property on a lake that my dad left me that we went swimming in all our lives there in Keystone Heights, Spring Lake. 1957, the lake went dry, or it went nearly dry. There are 2 springs in it, so it didn't go completely dry, but those lakes go dry. And our policy in the Sierra Club is we don't manipulate the water. We want the water to be as natural as possible. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is overpopulation. They're simply drawing too much water out of our drinking water aquifer in order to support growth and the wonderful jobs that the governor claims he's creating. So we're kind of opposed to that bill. Senate Bill 162 by Senator Rodriguez. It's a pilot program to eliminate plastic bags from the coastline communities. And you know the reason for eliminating it from the coastline communities, and that's because it'll end up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico as a floating plastic island. We've seen that in the Pacific. So it's a good program. Any town on the coastal, and it'll be voluntary, like so many bills that they pass in the Senate, in the House. It'll be voluntary, but any community of less than 100,000 people can qualify to start this pilot program with funding from the state, and it will eliminate plastic bags until it can be studied and prove that it is actually a valuable program. Now, Senator Charlie Dean, I know you've all heard of Senator Claghorn Charlie Dean, who was sheriff of Citrus County for about 12 years, and then he ran for Senate, and he was senator for another 12 years, and he was time limited out. But in the twilight of his career, he was appointed to be chairman of the Conservation and Environmental Protection Committee of the State Senate. And 2 years ago in session, the Senate passed his weak water bill. And oh, he bragged about that water bill, and it really had no bite in it. And so the Senate passed it on the floor, and the House refused to pass a companion bill, and then they adjourned. So that bill died at the end of that session, and we said, okay, it's passed through the Senate. We'll get a companion bill through the House next year, and we'll get some amendments to that bill, and we'll get Charlie Dean to buy those amendments, and so next year we'll get it done. And Charlie Dean came out before the session started, so we're not going to take any amendments. Charlie Dean was through before he started his session last year. So they passed a crappy bill. The House actually did produce a companion bill with absolutely no amendments, and it's a crappy bill. So The Sierra Club and the Florida Springs Council have introduced 8 amendments to that bill that we think will clean up our waterways. We have an extremely crucial nitrate problem in our water. The Florida Springs Institute, Dr. Bob Knight and his graduate students are testing public wells across the region, across North Florida, and they're finding a rapid increase in the concentration of nitrates. They're almost up to the EPA acceptable level now, and we've harped on it, and they're totally ignoring that problem. So we've introduced some amendments that are in the amendment process now in the Senate, and we hope to see some of them come out on the floor. Nitrates are caused by fertilizer from agriculture, from golf courses, and from urban lawns. And nitrates are caused by sewage. The biggest sewage problem we have is septic tanks. So, and as a matter of fact, the city of Ocala has started a pilot program on septic tanks, and Marion County has built a manifold of big pipes to pipe sewage from the city of Ocala to a central sewage system rather than dumping it into the aquifer through the ground, through the septic tanks. It's a voluntary, free of charge hookup. And after 6 months, the city of Ocala has gotten a total of 15% participation, and I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the process, when those people sign up, they're going to end up with a monthly sewer bill. And nobody wants to do that. The plumber with 4 children doesn't want an additional bill. So we're going to have to come up with something mandatory, and we're going to have to actually tax some people and take care of the water. It's a pretty dismal situation. The overpopulation, the nitrate increase, the polluted rivers we have, it's really dismal. But I do have good news, ladies and gentlemen. I saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico. The other good news I have is the Sierra Club has gained, in this right here in North Central Florida, we've gained 15% membership increase since the election in November. So, yeah, and I assume the other groups are getting a lot more participation too. All right, I've run out of time. We're not going to be able to go through these amendments, but there's some good ones. They're going to make agriculture actually tell us how much fertilizer they're using and how much water they're pumping. So we hope, keep your eyes on that. And that'll be amendments to Senate Bill 552. I do thank you, and thank you for listening.